So I'm just going to give you an overview, big picture look at component 2, and I have prepared a slideshow to begin doing that. You'll be digging in, of course, a lot more deeply into it later, but for now, just an overview so you'll sort of see the big picture. So how much is it worth? What does it weigh? So you know your component will be scored using a rubric. You'll score either a 1, 2, 3, or 4. You have to score like a 3 or a 4 to pass, so to speak, or for it to meet that accomplished teaching standard. And then the whole thing is worth 15% of your total score. Remember, component 1 is worth 40% of the score. Component 3 is worth 30. So these are the two that weigh the most, 1 and 3. And then 2, which I'm talking about today, and 4 both weigh 15% of your total score. So that's the weight of it. And so what's it all about? What's the big picture? Well, it's differentiation. It's about differentiation. Typically you choose 1 or 2 students. Your directions will tell you how many. And then you highlight your ability to evaluate the students' learning strengths and needs, to plan and implement appropriate differentiated instruction for those students. Again, it'll be 1 or 2. And then once you have implemented the instruction, you will analyze your instruction and modify your strategies based on ongoing assessment. So huge here is differentiation and then ongoing assessment to modify. Now, one thing that I really want to pull out here that sometimes candidates miss, you're not just designing instruction based on student needs, you're designing instruction based on their strengths. So you have to really evaluate the students, tell us who they are, and what are their strengths? What is it that they do well? And then what are their needs? And you use their strengths to beef up, those needs, to address the needs. As are all of the components. This one is closely aligned to the 5 core propositions. So let's just look at the overview and let's look at the 5 core propositions and see if we did not in fact see those embedded already just in the overview. So committed to students and their learning, you'll show that by showing us how you do differentiate. If you weren't committed to your students and their learning, you wouldn't be designing learning based on their students' individual strengths and needs, right? And then when you plan and implement differentiated instruction, that shows us that you know your subject and how to teach it to these particular students, okay? And then this ongoing assessment, that is that you are responsible for managing and monitoring the learning. When you modify, that shows that you're thinking systematically about your practice and learning from experience. Now, this one, a lot of times we don't actually realize that this core prop 5, proposition 5, that you're a member of learning community. Sometimes we're apt to leave that out when we write. We don't leave it out in our actual practice because we're always working with colleagues, parents, and the geographic community, but sometimes we forget to put that into our writing when we're writing our written commentary. So the question is, where do you put 5? Everywhere. Put it all throughout this this learning sequence. And then component 2, Jumpstart Planner. That brings us up to this. And the next video on this page is all about how to fill out that component 2 Jumpstart Planner. But I wanted to just give you the overview to let you know it's worth 15% of the whole thing. It's about differentiating instruction. evaluating, analyzing, implementing, planning next steps, and the 5 core propositions are all intertwined all through. So that's big picture of component 2, 1 or 2 students, remember.